Hey, my name's Andrew, and I actually don't have asthma anymore, but I did for more than 15 years. So these are 3 simple steps that help me take my exercise from to. My whole story with asthma goes back to this one day in middle school where I had to run a mile for gym class. It was April. Frost on the ground, big plumes of frozen breath everywhere, and I had a mind to win. But halfway through, I started getting this rasp in my lungs, like someone was squeezing my throat. By the time I finished, I was in 5th place, which was disappointing, but I didn't think too much about it until I got onto the varsity track team in high school. And the same symptoms of dry mouth and burning lungs and shortness of breath started tripping me up whenever the gun went off. It was like I had a speed limit on my lungs, and every time I went over it, I got pulled over. Not ready to give up on my dreams of growing a mustache and becoming the next Steve Prefontaine, I started doing some research on asthma and taking notes whenever I had symptoms, and basically it seemed like there were 5 main causes: allergies, environmental factors, exercise, genetics, and stress. An ironic cause to say the least, given that the best way to trigger asthma is to worry about triggering asthma. After a couple months of going in circles, I went to see my doctor, who ran a few airflow tests and determined that yes, I fit the bill for both allergic and exercise-induced asthma. Like allergies in general, he said there was no cure and sent me home with an albuterol inhaler to manage my symptoms. At first, it did calm down my lungs, so I started working out more at the gym and setting PRs at my track meets. But over time, I built up a tolerance, had to take 2, 3, 4 puffs to get the same effect, and I could tell I was taking too much, because after my races, I'd get these splitting headaches and collapse on the infield like a pile of roadkill. By this point, track wasn't even fun anymore, and when I went to college, I just stopped running for 7 years. In 2017, I got a job as a shoe salesman and accidentally stumbled into this whole barefoot running thing, but my asthma just picked up right where it left off. Until the spring of 2020, when I read this book called How Not to Die by Dr. Michael Greger and decided to go vegan. In my allergies video, I talk about how my asthma just disappeared by the end of the summer. And it goes into the whole process, but basically I found out how 70 to 80% of the immune system is actually in the gut, which led to cutting out some inflammatory foods like dairy, gluten, caffeine, and processed sugar. The only thing was, I'd had this amazing breakthrough with allergic asthma, but my exercise-induced asthma hadn't budged 1 inch. Last year, my brother Eric and his wife Joanna gave me a book called Breath by James Nestor, and it made me realize I don't know very much about this thing that's been keeping me alive for the past 2,592,000 seconds of my life. But after turning some of those insights into daily practices, I was able to come up with 3 simple steps that help me throw out my inhaler and move past exercise-induced asthma for good. Step 1, airway. The first thing I learned about breath is that as humans move to colder climates, our noses change, becoming longer and more narrow, which led to the belief that the mouth is what we're supposed to be breathing through, when in fact it's actually just a backup airway for emergencies. Once I started breathing only through my nose, kept my tongue tucked against the roof of my mouth, and left my inner nose hairs untrimmed, I realized the nose is much better at filtering toxins and allergens, and my headaches and dry mouth went away. Step 2, capacity. The second thing I learned is that there's actually a difference between a deep breath and a full breath. Because when I took a deep breath and then took a couple extra inhales, I realized that my lung capacity is actually twice what I thought. Wanting to see how far I could take it, I started practicing that Busta Rhymes verse from the song Look at Me Now. Every time I come in, I gotta stuff that, I gotta go in that, I gotta get it, that I gotta blow in that, I gotta shut it, and little thin, I gotta do it, because this is matter, because I gotta did it. And in a couple months, I was able to do the whole thing in 2 breaths. Step 3, rhythm. The third thing I learned is that exercise-induced asthma doesn't cause shortness of breath. In fact, it's the opposite. Whenever I felt my lungs tighten, I would start to breathe faster and more shallow to avoid the pain. But then my lungs would contract, and so I'd breathe even more shallow. And the cycle would repeat until I was having a full-blown asthma attack. So I reversed the cycle, and when my chest started to feel tight, I would push back by breathing slower and more deeply. For example, listen to how my breathing changes when I switch from a 6 count to an 8 count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hear the difference? The longer your count, the smoother your breath. At best, asthma is frustrating, and at worst, it can literally kill you. So inhalers and medications are a great way to get extreme symptoms under control. But if I could go back to that day in middle school, I'd just start with the basics. Eating healthy, avoiding processed sugar and caffeine, getting high quality sleep every night, and de-stressing my life. And if I was going out for a run or workout right now, I just stick to 3 simple rules. Airway, breathe through your nose. Capacity, fill and empty your lungs all the way. And rhythm, keep calm with a slower tempo. The place gotta taste it, and I gotta grab it, and I gotta cut all through this traffic just to beat at the top of the throat, but I know I gotta have it. So those are my tips for exercise-induced asthma. If you want to take it a step further, practicing a song or a poem or a movie scene every day using as few breaths as possible is a really fun way to strengthen your lungs. So thank you for watching. Catch you next time. Peace.